This Thursday, Initiative 2066 officially becomes law. The initiative to protect natural gas in your home and business officially becomes law on Thursday after being passed by voters. This segment is brought to you in partnership with our friends over at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. So there are a couple things happening right now. You guys will know because we discussed it on the show. I mean, Inslee came out, Governor Inslee, immediately after it was clear that Initiative 2066 would pass and said he thinks it's unconstitutional. He thinks it's going to be, challenged and will be overturned or whatever it is. So we're used to this, right? People who have supported a lot of the initiatives are used to, on the back end, like it passing and then someone using lawfare to undo the will of voters. And so that's very much what we're looking at with Initiative 2066. And one of the groups that was pivotal in getting 2066 passed, in helping Let's Go Washington do that, and is now going to be pivotal in fighting in a court of law, if they must, to keep 2066 in place, is the Building Industry Association of Washington. Greg Lane, welcome back to Undivided.
Great to be with you again, Brandy.
Yeah,
Hope you had a good Thanksgiving.
I had a great Thanksgiving, feeling a little full,
Nice.
but that's okay. That's what Thanksgiving's about, right? We'll recover.
That's right.
So first, just your reaction to I know that you guys were, particularly focused on getting the initiative through to stop the ban on natural gas. So the reaction that was the one that made it across the finish line.
Oh, we're thrilled, but not surprised. I mean, with the all the momentum we had, getting the signatures gathered, the enthusiasm, the support we knew we had from the public, we were not surprised that it passed. We were a little disappointed some of the others didn't get across the finish line, of course, but really pleased. And now we're focused on making sure that all the government entities comply with the new law, which takes effect on Thursday.
Yeah. So you, I imagine, anticipated that the fight wouldn't end on November 5th.
No, the fight is not over. Those who want to ban natural gas are going to continue fighting that battle through the courts in a number of different ways. And we're also getting extreme pushback from the State Building Code Council on implementing 2066 as well. So that's our focus now, is to make sure that the people's will is followed and that this law is followed by government.
Yeah, I want to get to those two things in a moment, but just to have you react to Governor Inslee. He immediately came out, said that he thinks that the way that the initiative was written is unconstitutional. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys had some input in the actual wording of the initiative. So your response to the governor?
Well, we actually wrote the initiative.
Okay,
We were the ones who contracted with the person who wrote it. We feel very confident that it complies with the single subject, which is the issue that they are most likely to challenge on. We'll see what else they may throw in there. But on that in particular, we feel very confident about it. Now, our concern is, the Washington courts, and especially if it gets to the Supreme Court, because some of those issues have been a little tricky, and that court has been difficult to deal with. So you never really know how they will rule given the makeup of that court. However, we feel really confident that the initiative complies with single subject. It was all about protecting natural gas as a service to customers, and so that's, we feel good about where we're headed in that.
Yeah, the governor also called, he flew across the world to attend a climate summit, and he also called the individuals who I would include you in this, who have been pushing back against his climate policies, because that's what he sees the initiative to protect natural gas as, climate deniers and miscreants. Did you take that personally? Did you think that applied to you?
Well, there were a lot of names that were called at us and me personally throughout the campaign with, Climate Solutions and the other organizations that were opposed. And, we sat through a couple of, video sessions debating the issue with them, and they called me all kinds of names. So I'm not surprised. That's what they do. They try and demonize people who want common sense solutions to these issues. And that's what we think this is. This is a common sense solution. The extreme position is to ban an energy resource that is affordable and reliable for people. We just had a great reminder this last couple of weeks,
I was
right?
going to say,
Hundreds of thousands of people put out of electric service due to the storms, and many of them rely on natural gas or propane as a backup energy source when the electricity goes out. The electric system is the one that's unreliable. and yet they want to move everybody over to that. So they are the ones who have the extreme position. We're the ones who just want common sense solutions for folks who can live their lives in a, affordable way.
Yeah, and I I don't know if you saw our story, but PSC in the middle of that, like 5 days into the outage, was sending customers offering them a $50 credit so they could come talk to them about electrifying their homes. And I just thought, oh
I
my
did
God,
see that. I
so
did see
bad.
that, but
Um,
yeah.
so let's talk about the Building Code Council, because again, there's kind of two fights happening right here. The Building Code Council, which, the governor has been accused in the past of making illegal appointments to that council and sort of circumventing some of the rules. He does have some appointees on that council, but they're refusing to implement the initiative?
Correct. So just as a reminder for your listeners, the Building Code Council is the one who creates all of the building and energy codes that our members have to comply with when they construct new homes or or commercial buildings as well when it comes to a commercial contractor. So we have to follow, our members have to follow all those rules. And they had implemented in the new energy codes for both residential and commercial construction a ban on natural gas in all new construction, which 2066 now makes that energy code illegal. It doesn't comply with the law as it will take effect under 2066 on Thursday. So we've gone to the Building Code Council. They've had two meetings since the election, and we've told them, look, the energy code is now going to be out of compliance with the law on December 5th. You need to start the process to change the energy code to bring them in compliance. And they have refused to do so. Now, this is a body that is, as you say, all completely appointed by the governor. They have acted really thinking they have no accountability to anybody. These are the vast majority of them, certainly the majority of them, are folks who want to ban natural gas. And at this point, they are really acting like they're above the law, that they don't, that they don't have to change the energy code to comply with the law. The energy code essentially bans natural gas by penalizing its use to a degree that no one will choose to have natural gas.
Yeah.
So that's how they went about it. But that's clearly in violation of the initiative. And so the Building Code Council needs to change the energy code immediately to come in compliance. And that's what we're insisting, and that's what the public should be insisting on, the will of the people be followed by this government government agency. Yes, they're all appointed by the governor, but they're first and foremost, they should be compliant with the law. And
Right.
that law takes effect on Thursday, and they need to bring the energy codes into compliance. So we are reluctantly, but probably going to have to file a lawsuit on Friday to have a court insist that the council acts to bring the energy code in compliance. I know
It's really
absurd.
insane. You have these parallel
Yeah.
lawsuits, have to put more money into it. It reminds me a
Yes.
lot of, I know it's a totally different subject, and I'm not trying to tie this issue to BIAW, but with the Parental Rights Initiative 2081 that the legislature passed, and then immediately the head of a public school system turned around and said, well, I don't really think I have to follow this. And it's like, wait a second. Like, are we picking and choosing laws to follow? It's really frustrating for especially the voters who, said, we want these things. And they're like, nah, do you really though? So on the lawsuits, you already kind of touched on it, to derail this and the argument from the governor and them that these lawsuits haven't manifested yet. I mean, but do you anticipate they're imminent, right?
Correct. So
There's
the
no
lawsuit
question.
challenging the constitutionality of 2066 has not been filed. We anticipate that those who want to ban natural gas are going to file that lawsuit within the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
They have to wait until the law takes effect. So
Oh,
that takes place on Thursday. And essentially, once 2066 becomes state law and the lawsuit gets filed challenging it, it's actually the Attorney General who will be the lead defendant of the law. I know. We are going to file a motion to intervene and become either a co-defendant if we're not named in the lawsuit, or the sole defendant to defend the lawsuit. But it will be the responsibility of the Attorney General to defend state law officially. So we'll see how that plays out. But we are going to aggressively defend this because we believe, one, as I mentioned before, that it is written constitutionally, that it doesn't violate it, but also it's the will of the people. It's what the people passed. And we're going to step up and defend it as aggressively as possible and all the way up to the state Supreme Court if necessary.
Yeah, and I had Nick Brown on the show, and I asked him this question because he was opposed to
Yeah.
all of the initiatives. Like, are you going to defend them? And should you recuse yourself? And he said he didn't feel like it would be appropriate, or he wouldn't need to recuse himself. So I just hope that he maintains his word that he's going to give it the most vigorous defense that he can. And the reality is, this has become a really frustrating pattern for voters, especially those who dissent from sort of the prevailing political winds. With initiatives, it's like you go through this long process and the money and the time associated with passing them, and then they get challenged and some of them get overturned. So if you were a betting man, would you say that this will come out of the other side of these legal battles unscathed?
I'm very confident that we will defend it and that we will come out victorious in that defense. Yes, I think 2066 will stand up to constitutional scrutiny, that it abides by the single subject rule, and ultimately will be upheld. What I hope is that we can get it implemented now, that the court won't stay implementation for that period of time until they rule whether it's constitutional or not. We need to get, this is the will of the people, and we need to get it implemented and have natural gas protected as quickly as possible. It's what the voters truly wanted. They need to understand that they are the minority in this. It is state law. And, you would think the government's top priority should be following state law. And yeah, I know. It is interesting. We've also put to add a little bit to this. It's actually local governments who enforce the building codes. So last week we sent letters to all of the building code officials, city and county administrators, the elected officials in all those cities and counties, saying that we expect you to enforce the law when it comes to the building and energy codes. So even if the Building Code Council is slow to act, even though we'll be pushing them as strong as we can, but even if they're slow to act, city and county governments have the option to enforce the law when it comes to energy codes and not penalize gas in new construction. So we'll be working at the local level too to ensure that this gets enforced properly.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, we're going super long, but I just have one question on that really quick. Wouldn't it be dumb though for builders to start churning out new construction with gas, given the fact there's a pending lawsuit?
Well, again, state law is going to, 2066 becomes state law on Thursday. So our builders should be able to go into any local jurisdiction and get a permit that allows them to build with natural gas without penalty. And if they're prevented from doing so, it would be, our assertion that local government takes on liability at that point to prevent new construction that doesn't allow natural gas. So now that's all pending on the court. If the court stays 2066 implementation, then of course that changes things. But law becomes law, or the initiative becomes law starting on Thursday. So, our members are anticipating being able to go in and request a permit that allows them to use natural gas without penalty starting on Friday.
All right, we'll see what happens. Well, Greg Lane,
Yeah.
A big thank you to you and to BIAW, because I know, you guys have a dog in this fight, obviously, because you represent builders, but you've also spent an awful lot of money and effort on this initiative, which benefits so many people outside of that industry and people who rely on it for their homes. And like you said, we saw that last week. So, my home is one of them. So a big thank you on behalf of citizens who want to protect natural gas for all the work that you guys have done on that.
I appreciate you saying that. It was, we felt it was our responsibility to step up and protect homeowners, both current homeowners and future homeowners, from bearing the costs of this just horrible policy.
Yeah,
So,
and businesses and businesses and restaurants
Yep,
and all of that. So they owe you a
exactly.
debt of gratitude. Greg Lane, thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Brandy.
Again, that's Greg Lane, the Executive Vice President of the Building Industry Association of Washington. So the fight isn't over. The fight just began after the November 5th election, whether Initiative 2066 will, one, be adhered to when it becomes law on Thursday, and then two, will survive whatever sort of lawfare the left wants to throw at it, I think is TBD. But again, we're talking about the will of voters, and it really says something when you have the voters speak and the governor turn around and say, no, we don't think that that law is gonna hold. We'll probably sue over that. And then you have the building code council saying, nah, no, we don't think that we're gonna adjust our codes. It's a slap in the face to voters, and that should anger every single voter, regardless of political affiliation. That story was brought to you in partnership with our friends over at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org.